It's Wednesday, September 21. In the headlines, National Security Minister says there's no shoot-to-kill policy. Regionally, Bahamas prepares for Hurricane Fiona. And in sports, JFF says Reggae Girls coaching staff contracts coming soon. This is the news on PBC Jamaica. I'm Simone Absalom Gale. Minister of National Security Dr. Horace Chang gave an update on various strategies being employed to combat crime and violence in the country on Wednesday during a post-cabinet press briefing.
The National Security Minister's first order of business was to respond to criticisms about a reported statement he made while addressing newly trained police officers last week. Dr. Chang says he was misquoted.
And I said, if they are attacked, our policemen come under attack by criminals, they should return fire. The term I used was fireback. That's standard use of force policy anywhere in the globe. If you come under deadly attack, you are entitled to respond. As to quote the Indicom director, the right to life is the first event. And in a combat situation, the police have the first right to life, I think, is the right to life of the policeman, who is acting to protect not only himself, but the wider society. And I further indicated that
Dr. Chang also gave an update on his ministry's actions against gang activities. He says there is a challenge with prosecuting gang leaders who are embedded in their community.
Their families, their friends that they went to school with, they are criminal actors, not political actors. And what we want is criminal legislation to assist the police in removing them from the community while we build the case that we can take to court. Because it's well established, gang leaders dominate communities in a way that creates fear, and therefore the quality evidence you need, which in our tradition we maintain, and we're not in any way seeking to reload the bar. But first person affidavit is crucial in taking criminals to court who are violence producers.
He says there are some who are against the idea of moving gangsters from the community while prosecutors build a case.
There are legal minds that do not think with the current Charter of Rights we can in fact go in that direction. We have to work with what we have. And that means continued policing operations, increasing the numbers, increasing their technical capability, which we're doing, but that is a medium-term solution. And the short-term one still begs for strong activity, and that's where I have the legal minds working, and I expect to get an early response.
The National Security Minister was also asked about the PSOJ's push for a crime consensus between the government and the opposition. Dr. Chang says they are still working on certain legal aspects.
We have no intention of seeking to change the fundamentals of our Constitution and Charter of Rights. We do think there's room there, but we have to await the legal minds. In terms of the broader consensus that could go beyond that to give the police force force multiplier factors in its fight against the criminals in the community. There has been discussion. As I said, you are dealing with legal activities, which has to be examined. I expect some quicker response. I'm not going to discuss the detail. We have been having consultation, discussion with legal minds, and we're pursuing that. And we have a discussion with the PNP. We know exactly where they are, and we know exactly what we'd like, but we have to ensure that whatever we do is appropriate legally.
The PSOJ noted in a media release that while it is aware that investments in technology, capacity, and infrastructure continue to be made in the police force and the Jamaica Defense Force, and legislation to combat crime are in the pipeline, it says, and I quote, "We must deal with the immediate crisis," end quote. The group is calling for sound and effective short-term strategies, and I quote, "within our legal construct to mount a credible and sustainable effort to neutralize these gangs," end quote. For PBCJ News, I'm Carla Thomas Hewitt.
4 men, including an employee of the Jamaica Urban Transit Company, JUTC, are now in police custody after they were reportedly caught stealing gasoline from one of the company's buses in Kingston. Investigators believe the operation in central Kingston may have cracked a major petrol stealing ring. Fuel theft costs the JUTC billions of dollars yearly, with the company projected to register at least $8 billion in losses this fiscal year. Manchester Central Member of Parliament Rhoda Moy Crawford says several roads have been fixed in the last year across her constituency. She gave her report in Parliament on Tuesday in her contribution to the State of the Constituency Debate 2022-2023.
Shawtown, Wilbin, Blue Mountain, Ingleside, Jackson Drive, Chowers, Top Coffee Grove, Bottom Coffee Grove, sections of Waltham, Tulsa Road, Barnstable, Davidton, Long Hill, Mayday, Banana Ground, Old Melrose Road, the Carteret Road, Mandeville Town Centre, Manchester Road, Old Kendall Road, Victoria Hill, Manga Grove, sections of Bombay, Royal Flat, New Hall, Richmond, Bellytaro, Mandeville to Rods Corner, Forest to Whitney Turn, Kurt Road, sections of Winston Jones Highway, Villa Road Primary School Ground, among others.
She also informed that other infrastructural developments are underway.
The Melrose to Williamsfield leg of the East-West South Coast Highway, which is now 81% completed. When completed, travel time to Mandeville will be significantly reduced.
Turning to education, Ms. Crawford says 385 grants have been distributed.
375 was distributed through the Constituency Development Fund and 10 through the Ministry of Labour.
The Manchester Central MP also disbursed entrepreneur, building and training grants to constituents who indicated their need. She also reported on the ongoing project to improve the constituency's long-time water and traffic woes.
$410 million Greater Water Mandeville Supply System. This system is currently in phase 2 of 4 phases. When completed, residents in Mandeville and neighboring communities will be relieved of decades of severe water challenges. The $80 million Mandeville Traffic Management System to tackle traffic congestion in our town is finally being implemented. When completed, we will see new turning lane conversions of some roadways to full two-way operations, new signalized intersections, added traffic lights, new draining systems, and road rehabilitation.
Ms. Crawford also called out counterproductive activities carried out by state entities after road repairs are complete.
Permit me to call upon the National Works Agency and the National Water Commission to enter into or enforce a memorandum of understanding to ensure that the two entities execute their duties collaboratively. Yes. We have far too often borne witness to the dismantling of freshly asphalted roads to facilitate the installation or repairs of pipelines. Madam Speaker, my heart broke a few months ago when I received pictures and a phone call from an angry and frustrated constituent who saw a work team from the NWC digging into a section of the roadway on the Carteret Road less than 2 hours after my road affix team had concluded road repairs.
Effective Monday, September 19, the Registrar General's Department, RGD, suspended printing of the first free birth certificates and limited the maximum number of copies persons can apply and pay for. The RGD says the move is a result of supply chain logistical challenges sparked by the COVID-19 pandemic. RGD's Chief Executive Officer, Charlton McFarlane, explains that their security paper supplier would have indicated that they are having challenges with the production and shipment of the paper. He told JIS, quote, "On average, a customer would apply and pay for 2 birth certificates, but at this time, we are only allowing a said customer to apply for 1 copy, if it is a birth or marriage certificate," end quote. Regarding death certificates, the CEO explained that persons can apply for a maximum of 2. Mr. McFarlane pointed out that only customers applying for certificates between September 19 and September 30 and requesting a turnaround time for delivery during that period will be affected. The suspension is expected to last until Friday, September 30. The RGD is Jamaica's sole repository of birth, marriage, and stillbirth and death records. One new case of monkeypox was reported in the last 72 hours, bringing the number of confirmed cases to 13. That data comes from the Ministry of Health and Wellness. The ministry says 7 cases are still active. The patients are under home quarantine and are between the ages of 25 and 52 years old. Director General of the World Health Organization, Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus, launched a new report calling on global leaders to take urgent action on non-communicable diseases, NCDs, responsible for 17 million premature deaths every year. To accelerate action, Dr. Tedros renewed the 2-year appointment of Michael R. Bloomberg as WHO Global Ambassador for Non-Communicable Diseases and Injuries. Here's more in this report.
The announcement came at the first annual gathering of a Heads of State and Government Group for the Prevention of NCDs held during the 77th session of the United Nations General Assembly. This follows the launch of a global NCD compact earlier this year by Ghana and Norway. To mark the occasion, the WHO released a new report entitled Invisible Numbers, the True Scale of Non-Communicable Diseases, and a data portal that for the first time brings together all WHO data related to NCDs for 194 countries. The report and portal highlight the extent of global NCD burden, risk factors, and the progress each country is making in their efforts to combat these diseases and conditions. Every 2 seconds, someone under 70 somewhere in the world dies of an NCD. Non-communicable diseases like heart disease, cancer, diabetes, and lung disease now outnumber infectious diseases as the top killers globally.
In a weather update, we take a look at the activities of a weather system now affecting countries in the Caribbean. According to the Meteorological Service of Jamaica, Hurricane Fiona is moving toward the north at 13 kilometers per hour. This general motion is expected to continue through to this evening. On the forecast track, the center of Fiona will continue to move away from the Turks and Caicos Island today and approach Bermuda late on Thursday. Maximum sustained winds have increased to near 215 kilometers per hour with higher gusts. Fiona is a Category 4 hurricane on the Saffir-Simpson hurricane wind scale. Some strengthening is forecast, but it is not a threat to Jamaica. The Met Service says it will continue to monitor the system. Time now for the business report with Danita Rodney.
Food manufacturer and distributor Seprod says they will begin shipping products to Guatemala in October. The announcement was made by CEO Richard Pandohi during their annual general meeting on Monday.
Our team, based in the Dominican Republic, has been working to enter the Central American and other Hispanic markets. And I'm pleased to announce that we'll start shipping products during October this year, next month, to new countries such as Guatemala.
Seprod's entry into the Hispanic market forms part of a strategic objective to increase export sales by accelerating growth in North America and the Caribbean, even as it explores European markets. The company is also looking at technological implementations in an effort to be cost-effective and labor-productive.
Next pillar is technology implementation. That C word, which we're not calling out, over the last few years, has forced our society to recognize how much we're lagging in the implementation of technology in our everyday life. In many ways, our companies are a microcosm of society. We mistakenly believe that using a lot of manual labor was more cost-effective than spending a lot of upfront capital to implement technology. Nothing is further from the truth. Our country's low productivity from all this manual intervention creates expensive unit costs of production, It lowers output and it creates huge wastage. I mean, ask our farmers, more than 30% of the crops in this country are lost due to the lack of post-harvest technology. If we're going to feed our region, if we're going to grow our exports, and to be a co-manufacturer of choice for global players, then we have to be able to produce competitively. We have gaps in this regard and we're working hard to close them. But it's a massive paradigm shift for society and by extension a company that is shifting gear from local to regional and beyond. Within the separate group, we're moving with speed to make technology a key element in our value proposition. This will also ensure that we raise the quality of people we employ and move up the people value chain, because it's the interface between users and technology that will drive the value creation.
For your market updates, in foreign exchange trading for Tuesday, September 20, the US dollar sold for an average of $152.70. The Canadian dollar ended trading at $115.46. The pound sterling traded for $173.17, and the euro sold for an average of $154.50. In JSE trading, the JSE index declined by 5,837 points. The junior market index declined by 14 points. The combined market index declined by 5,584 points. And the all Jamaican composite index declined by 4,194 points. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 105 stocks, of which 38 advanced, 47 declined, and 20 traded firm. Stocks advanced for 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited, Berger Paints Jamaica Limited, and Caribbean Producers Jamaica Limited. Stocks declined for 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited Verbal Preference, Access Financial Services Limited, and AMG Packaging and Paper Company Limited. Trading firm were 1834 Investments Limited, CAC 2000 9.5% Cumulative Redeemable Preference Shares, and Cargo Handlers Limited. The overall volume leaders were Spur-Tree Spices Jamaica Limited with over 16 million units, Tropical Battery Company Limited with over 8 million units, and Wigton Wind Farm Limited Ordinary Shares with over 2 million units. In regional stocks, in Trinidad and Tobago, Clico Investment Fund was the volume leader with over 14,000 shares, followed by Calypso Macro Index Fund with 120 shares. Zero securities were traded on the Barbados Stock Exchange. In regional business, on Tuesday, the Caribbean Development Bank, CDB, announced it had entered into an agreement with an Italian-based investment bank to provide $50 million to help regional countries counter the effects of climate change and support the sustainable development of said countries. It said the financing will help accelerate the implementation of programs launched, which are aimed at achieving the UN Sustainable Development Goals by 2030. In market data for oil prices rose after Russian President Vladimir Putin announced a partial military mobilization, escalating the war in Ukraine and raising concerns of tighter oil and gas supply. Brent crude futures were up $1.35 at $91.97, and West Texas Intermediate crude was at $85.14 a barrel, up $1.20. And that was the business report on PBCJ. I'm Danita Rodney.
In regional news, we start in the Bahamas. As Hurricane Fiona continues to track north, officials say they are not taking any chances on those southern islands and as such have begun evacuating residents.
Hurricane Fiona is now a Category 3 hurricane. And while we're only expected to get tropical storm force winds in the southeastern Bahamas, evacuations are already underway in some areas.
The state minister who has responsibility for disaster preparedness, management, and reconstruction says the outer bands of Hurricane Fiona are expected to impact some of the family islands in the south. For that reason, they decided to begin evacuations.
That flight had 5 Marines along with supplies for residents in Meguana. There are some 21 persons to be evacuated.
LaRota went on to say the people who evacuated were residents who may need special medical attention and were advised to evacuate by local doctors. As for those staying in Meguana, Acting Prime Minister Chester Cooper says,
"We've spoken with the island administrator and all of the local government officials as well as the doctor on the island of Meguana. They are going to remain on island and they anticipate that all will be well on the basis of the preparations that have already been made Shelters have been opened, and Bahamas Air was able to take in some supplies this morning, in addition to what they received yesterday by mailboat.
Hurricane Fiona has already caused devastation, killing 2 in Puerto Rico, as well as mudslides and an additional death in the Dominican Republic. While Hurricane Fiona is expected to take a sharp northern turn, officials say it's important you please keep updated and informed. For more information, you can visit the Bahamas Department of Meteorology or the National Hurricane Center to keep up to date.
In the Cayman Islands, UK-based behavior management training program Team Teach recently trained 9 staff members on responding to challenging situations and behaviors. Here are the details.
9 staff from across the Ministry of Education, the Department of Education Services, and government schools were recently trained by a principal trainer from Team Teach in the UK to be certified Team Teach intermediate trainers. Now, the 5-day intensive training course is to equip and certify participants to train staff on responding to challenging situations and behaviors in ways that lead to desirable outcomes and positive relationships at work or in daily life. More policy advisor, or MOE rather, policy advisor, Safer Schools, Mrs. Cheryl Patterson is the Team Teach coordinator. She's also one of the newly certified trainers, and she says she looks forward to the commencement of training sessions in the various local educational institutions.
In Barbados, a new outbreak in the region has prompted a fresh warning to farmers to pay more attention to enhancing biosecurity protocols to safeguard poultry and other livestock. The call comes from Director for the Center of Biosecurity Studies at the UWI Cave Hill campus, Dr. Kirk Douglas. It comes on the heels of the bird flu outbreak in Belize. He has been monitoring the situation there and says it is a cause for concern.
It underscores the importance of biosecurity, especially on farms. And this is not only for poultry, but you have also in terms of pork production and pig farms. Anywhere you have livestock and you have large numbers of these livestock, it is very important to put into place these biosecurity measures. It goes a long way in preventing disease and also in terms of food safety, because it's not only the animals, but it's also the food. But for bird flu, I want to really specify that even though bird flu would be present or may be present in poultry, once the poultry is actually cooked thoroughly, there's no threat of persons being harmed by bird flu.
In international news, the United Kingdom's new Prime Minister Liz Truss is under pressure to avert a deepening economic crisis in the wake of the war in Ukraine and soaring energy prices. Truss, who took office just 2 days before Queen Elizabeth died, has already promised more than $140 billion to help Britons deal with the crisis.
Mourning Queen Elizabeth on an industrial scale requires a huge amount of kit and now a massive amount of dismantling. Most flags are back at full mast, although mourning will continue to be observed for another 7 days within the royal household. And for the rest of the country, well, reality bites, with the new government facing a mounting in-tray of major problems. But before any big announcements, Prime Minister Liz Truss is attending another massive media moment here at the UN General Assembly in New York, where Ukraine and the global energy crisis dominates. She's also flying in for a first official meeting with President Biden, although moments after landing she conceded hopes of a post-Brexit UK-US trade deal could be many, many years away.
We're not going to achieve the results overnight. It is going to take time. But with a faster growing economy, we can afford to spend on the public services that we all rely on, like the National Health Service, at the same time is enabling people to keep more money in their pockets.
While that promise sinks in back home, pressing questions over how the country will afford the $150 billion energy bailout the government pledged to help households avoid soaring bills. A detailed Truss missed when she announced the biggest peacetime financial intervention ever, just hours before Queen Elizabeth died.
With the soaring energy prices.
She's trying to present herself, of course, as a tax-cutting, fiscally responsible Conservative, but she's about to go out and borrow £130 billion perhaps on the bond markets. Very, very difficult to do it in those circumstances, particularly as that will have to be paid for through taxation in some way.
On Friday, the new Chancellor of the Exchequer, Kwasi Kwarteng, will answer some of these questions when he delivers a mini-budget. Expect billions for the National Health Service, tax cuts and breaks for businesses, and a plan to lift all limits on bankers' bonuses, raising eyebrows at a time of crippling costs.
As the world starts to peel away from the pageantry of the past 10 days, British people are now living in a new reality. A brand new king, a brand new Prime Minister, all in the space of a few days of each other. Changes not seen in the United Kingdom since 1830. And while many people, of course, welcome a return of British politics, everybody knows how difficult the challenges ahead really are.
MPs aren't even back at work yet. But already British railway workers say they're planning to strike on October the 1st over pay and conditions. Other workers from other industries may follow. In a summer dominated for months by the resignation of Boris Johnson and the election of Liz Truss as Prime Minister, opposition MPs say crucial time's been wasted. Weeks of frantic policy making await.
In sports, the Jamaica Football Federation, JFF, says contracts for the Reggae Girls coaching staff will be in place soon. The contracts of the coaching staff expired on the day after the CONCACAF Championships in July, where the Reggae Girls qualified for consecutive FIFA World Cup tournaments. JFF President Michael Ricketts gave an update on Tuesday in response to questions from the media. Next year's FIFA Women's World Cup will be held in Australia and New Zealand from July 20 to August 20. As the battle for the remaining 3 playoff spots moves to Guyana, the Trinbago Knight Riders have found themselves in a must-win situation during the final leg of the Hero CPL League stages. Here's why.
Well, the Trinbago Knight Riders began their home series with a defeat and also ended with a defeat. And here's a quick look at what took place at the Queen's Park Oval and also at the Brian Lara Cricket Academy in South Trinidad. The TKR, they batted first against the Barbados Royals in their first match and got to 132 all out, with Nicholas Puran scoring 52. The Royals walked over that total, getting to 136 for the loss of just 2 wickets. In the second match, it saw a resurgent TKR team taking on the Guyana Amazon Warriors, and the TKR, they took first strike, getting to 150 for the loss of 8, with a top score 42 coming in from Colin Munro. Amazon Warriors, they choked, being bowled out for 124, with Akil Hussain and Andre Russell both taking 3 wickets apiece, doing the bulk of the damage. The third game went down to the Brian Lara Cricket Academy in Charuba, and that match saw Ravi Rampal destroy the Jamaica Tallowers, taking 4 wickets for 19 runs to restrict the Jamaica Tallowers to 116 for the loss of 7. TKR endured superb bowling for the Tallowers and eventually got to 119 for the loss of 6, winning by 4 wickets.
It is the former Tallowa.
Well, the fourth and final match also took place at the Brian Lara Cricket Academy, with the St. Lucia Kings prevailing. The Kings batted first and posted 147 from their 20 overs, with Johnson Charles top scoring with 54. TKR struggled through the mid-stages with stingy bowling from the Kings. In the end, they fell 1 run short at 146 for the loss of 6, giving Kings a 1-run victory heading to Guyana.
Another crushing defeat, this time to the Barbados Royals at the Brian Lara Cricket Academy, means the Guyana Amazon Warriors need to win all 4 of their home matches to safely secure a playoff spot. The Warriors currently sit bottom of the table with 3 points from 6 matches. Their latest defeat was failing to chase 111 from 16 overs in a rain-affected game on Sunday. Speaking to Newsroom Guyana's Akeem Green after the match, skipper Shimron Hetmeyer said winning all of their home matches is a challenge, but he's backing his players to do it.
To be honest, we can't really be too frustrated with it, to be honest. I think the guys did their best. On the wicket, it was a very, very difficult wicket. You could have seen that from the first innings when they batted, and I guess that's how cricket goes sometimes. I guess we actually thought that coming down batting in the second innings, it would have flattened out just a little bit, but I guess it still played the same way. So looking forward from here, for us is just to head home and win all of our games. Basically, it's as simple as that.
And that's it for the news on PBCJ. I'm Simone Absalom Gale. You can follow us on all our social media platforms at PBCJamaica. That's why we are the People's Station.